You're watching the Whole My Brunch podcast, hosted all the way from Sri Lanka. I am Shavi, and I love talking about many things, starting from the life hustle to the biggest insecurities that all of us have. Do you need that Sunday morning coffee or tea with a strong brew? Then this is the right place for you. Stay tuned. Hello, lovelies. Good morning from Colombo, Sri Lanka. I know it was a good Saturday for the most part of the world, so good evening to every one of you out there. Anyway, before starting off, I have to thank everyone who watched my podcast via YouTube and Anchor, and some of them have subscribed my channel, which is amazing, and I am extremely speechless with that kind of a response. It may look like it's so miniature, but it means a lot to me. Thank you so much once again. And the rest of you who are listening right now, thank you again and again, because you're my audience and I am nothing without you guys. Today, through my episode number 0, I don't know what it is, I will be presenting the purpose of this podcast. There are a lot of reasons why I wanted to start off a podcast, because I love talking, I love sharing experience and everything in related to networking, and I am up for it. Right off the bat, I would love to introduce myself to you guys. I am Shavi. Of course, in short form is Shavi, because my full name is a little bit longer as usual. Typical Sri Lankan names, obviously. So call me Shavi. I am a recent biology graduate with a kink of creativity hidden inside me and trying to express it. I was always dreaming of having my own podcast, because obviously I love talking and sharing my experience. I would also love to hear your feedback, and I have provided a space in order to make sure it's very interacting, and I'm trying to establish it through this podcast. Through this podcast, I'm hoping to share my experience as an international Brunch student in the United States, majoring in a STEM subject. STEM means basically science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Just imagine you have been under the comfort of home, and suddenly, right after high school, you are literally dropped to another continent through an ultra-long haul flight. That's definitely a different level of experience, and if you have the chance for it, it doesn't really matter if it's undergrad or grad, that will be amazing to do it. Starting from the passion to immigration experience to culture shock and the counter culture shock, which is very worse, there are many things to talk about in regard. If you are an international student already, or are hoping to get that experience in a different country, I definitely believe this is a great platform for you guys to get some advice and how-tos on surviving yourself in a different country. On top of that, I would love to talk about genetics. For me, as I understand as a biology graduate, genetics is the most logical part of the entire niche of biology. I mean, I could be wrong, but this is just my experience. Yeah, let's get into like way better explanations, especially in the future episodes. Genetics is like the biggest story of ourselves. People are talking about evolution. People have many theories, and there are many laws in science which relate to genetics. However, I find the common mass knowledge on genetics is pretty poor and it's kind of misleading sometimes. So I would love to debunk a lot of crazy myths going on in regard to genetics, at least with my experience as a graduate. Yeah, I am hopeful for that. I would also love to separate a portion of this podcast in talking about taboos and sexuality. I really love to discuss on breaking barriers, breaking gender roles, disintegrate the definition of being feminine, and all sorts of polarized taboos that we have as brown people, or more specifically South Asian people, so that we could kind of relate our situation going from the South Asian brown perspective to the global perspective, which is kind of like a spectrum crossing. But I would say it's amazing, like there should be a space for all of us talking about such things, especially in these times. As a woman, I love to talk about how comfortable we are with our sexuality. I have seen numerous amounts of women who complain about their sexuality and how they look in a sexual way. Some of them don't even try talk about it because they think it's bringing them insecurity in all forms. That's very understandable because especially in this brown community, or in Sri Lanka it could be the South Asian community or the entire Asian region, we see that we don't give prominence to sexual education, which is not a cool thing at all. In addition to what I said previously, I am also hoping to open my box. And to get out of that box, obviously, this is a podcast where free speech, free listening is exercised. And I am way more fortunate to utilize that. I'm actually hoping to talk about more and more things on how things affect us in our life and how we are going to cope up with things. Things, events, people, you name it, everything. So I'm hoping to explore more by interacting with you guys and with my own self-search and more of it. Next week, I'm actually hoping to talk about the value of studying abroad. A lot of people think that it's all good to study in your own country. If you are studying in your own country, obviously. It's kind of the university experience that one should expect. But I would say it's pretty wrong, because when you spend a year or at least a semester abroad, you will understand that is an experience coming from a different realm. I am excited to talk about that and how you could get into that, the possible opportunities that people have to do that, and probably a lot of motivation and more reasons for it. And I'm hoping to talk about that on next week's episode. So stay tuned on my Anchor podcast platform and also my YouTube channel, where I will be uploading my podcast weekly. I am very grateful of your support as well. So, is it time to sign off after a little bit of an introduction? I think, yeah, because brunch, supper is waiting for you. I had a great time talking to you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Have an amazing week ahead. Goodbye. And obviously, we are meeting next week for sure. Till then, bye.